I know what I should have done. Hey there. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, whichever applies to you, depending on where you're watching this from and when you're watching it. Listen, I'm excited about this conversation today. Before we get started, we are going to make sure that everything is working properly. So give me just a second. I also want to go and share this a couple of places. If it's live, let's make sure we're on there live. Oh no, it says it's private. So let me go on here and edit that. I don't know why it did that. Okay, let me change that. Okay, so now we should be live on Facebook now. Let's refresh it here. Yes, we actually have some viewers now, so I think we got that problem fixed. Oh, that might be me. Okay. All right, let's share this. I'm going to share it on I'm going to share it to the centers page. I'm going to share it to my group here, to the private group I have. And there we go. We are ready to rock and roll. I'm excited. Hey, buddy. Hey there. Hey there. Hey there. I got TLX on YouTube watching. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like the video. Even though you're watching it, go ahead and hit that like button. That helps us to kind of boost that algorithm on YouTube. And it also is going to help us. Hey, Lisa Graves is watching on YouTube. Spiritual Walkers with Apostle Lisa Graves. All right. Don't let that term apostle fool you. She don't mean it in the Christian way, because that's one cussing mother. I'm gonna try not to cuss too much today. But anyway, Lisa Graves is watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to my channel there on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, also hit the like button. Interact, engage on both platforms so that we can get this algorithm moving, and this will show up on more people's posts. So I'm excited today. I'm going to bring my guest on. My guest was supposed to do something that I don't think he did. Let me look and see. Did he send me? Oh, yes, he did. I almost lied. Okay. All right. So he sent me everything I need, but I've got my guest with me today, Jason Jones, and I'm excited. Jason Jones is an atheist, and he's going to talk to us about his experience and also not just his experience away, drifting away or running away, or however it was for him from Christianity. He's also going to talk to us about his perspective on the historicity of the Jesus figure. So I'm excited. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. Again, instructions. Please hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well. Share this no matter what platform you're on. Share it on Facebook. Share it on YouTube. Let's get this conversation rolling. I'm going to bring my guest on right now, add him to the stream, and let's see what we got and see if we can hear him, because we were having some technical difficulty earlier. Jason, are you here, buddy?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yes, yes. So I learned
Great.
something tonight. So glad to have you here. Jason,
Glad
uh,
to be here.
I'm glad to have you here, man. And it's been a long time coming. Now, do you mind if I kind of reveal some of your identity here?
You go ahead and do what you need to do.
All right. So we're going to let the secret out of the bag here. Let the cat out of the bag, as they say. A lot of you see his name here on the channel. It does say Marcion Magus, and I may have him explain that. Maybe not. Maybe leave some of you in suspense about that. That is not his name. His name is Jason Jones. So we're excited to have Jason with us today. But on Facebook, you will see him as Marcion Magus. You may also see him under some other some other names as well. You may see him
Pseudonym.
as, say it again.
Pseudonyms.
Yeah, he has several pseudonyms here. There's another. What are the others here? Rasan, and then
Ellie
we have.
Soter.
Say it again.
That's Ross' son, Helly Soter.
Okay, and what's the other? I know there's multiple, more than one.
Jason Soter.
Jason Salter. Okay. But we're just excited to have him here. Some of you guys out there, because I have quite a variety of viewers, some of you guys out there have had some run-ins with this mother jugger. Listen to me trying not to cuss today. I'm just trying to be nice today because some people don't like the fact that I use so much profanity. But fuck you. Sorry. Said I wasn't
Very offensive.
You're very offended.
Very offensive words.
Very offensive. Well, fuck you too. Okay.
It hurt my ears. My virgin ears.
Let's get into this. So we have our brother with us. Oh, and someone asked a good question on Facebook. Is there a reason for not showing identity? Because I was actually going to get to that. Marcion, do you want to answer that question? I won't tell you what he told me at first. He probably doesn't remember.
I have many reasons.
Okay. Do you care to answer that? You don't have to, but you can if you'd like to.
No, I'll plead the fifth on that and just go with many reasons.
Okay, many reasons. Okay, let me tell you what he told me a long time ago. He was joking, so I'm gonna say this. He was telling me that he was too ugly to be shown on camera, so so he wouldn't come on. But that is not the case. Now, those of you that know me, I definitely love women. Okay, everybody knows that. Women, like that little boy on that show says. But I will tell you, I've seen Jason, and he is not a hideous monster. Okay, so but today he has chosen. We're supposed to have an image up today, but there's no there's no. Jamia said the feds must be after him. Laugh out loud. Okay, just joking. Y'all have fun. That is funny. You know, Jamia, anyway.
The Christian feds. The Christian feds are on me. The Christian feds are on me.
Feds are definitely after him. But hey, guys, well, let's go ahead and get started today. I'm going to ask you to speak up as loud as you can because I can hear you, but not as well as I would like to. But I want to say welcome to the broadcast today. If you're watching by YouTube or Facebook, you're watching The Unbelieving Bishop. Okay. And it's kind of misleading, that name, because I do believe, but I believe in reality. Reality is my religion. I am in a personal relationship with reality. Okay. But at any rate, let's and we all have, well, this is my perspective. Don't say anything about that word. He doesn't like the word perspective. Well, we won't even talk about that. That's not quite true. But in my perspective, I believe that we all are believers in something, whether you believe in science or what have you. But we're not here to talk about the name of my Facebook. Of my YouTube channel. But I am the host of The Unbelieving Bishop, and I do understand that discussing sensitive topics like religious beliefs and historical figures, they do require a respectful and open-minded approach. And I know some of you probably feel like I don't always have that approach. Sometimes I really do offend on purpose, and I've talked about the reason why I do that. It has to do with the psychology of the mind. Okay, the reason why I do that on purpose. But we won't talk about that because we're not here for that either today. But so again, welcome to The Unbelieving Bishop, the show where we delve deep into the deconstruction of religious beliefs. Today we have a thought-provoking guest with us who's going to share his journey away from religion and his perspective on the historicity of Jesus. So let's just dive right in. So Jason, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. So, Jason, first of all, can you briefly share your personal journey away from religion?
Sure.
And let me expand on that. So, I want you to share just briefly your personal journey away from religion, and maybe touch on some key factors or experiences that led you to question or reject your previous religious beliefs. So lay that groundwork for us, sir.
Sure. It all began in about the summer of 2015 when a guy, fellow Christian believer, challenged me concerning the tenets of what we call having to do with the pre-tribulation wrath and the preterist perspective and the futurist perspective. And he was basically kind of informing me that the tribulation already happened in 70 AD and whatnot, and I thought he was crazy. So I pretty much turned to the Bible, to the Gospels, and to the epistles and whatnot to kind of sort this whole mess out and understand it. And in doing so, as I began to compare, it kind of led me into basically comparing each gospel with another gospel: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the canonized gospels.
So I want you to stop for just a second. I want to interject with a question. So it is my understanding that you were really going on this journey. If I'm understanding you correctly, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You were going on this journey of a deeper study in order to defend your religious belief. Am I correct?
Well, to defend the what we would call the Christian Orthodox view of pre-tribulation, rapture, and all that eschatology kind of stuff that goes along with evangelical Christianity, as we know it is today.
You didn't go on this study in an attempt to walk away from Christianity. That's what it sounds like, anyway. It was like more so to just dig deeper concerning your faith and some of your beliefs.
Correct. I was, all in for Jesus at this time. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, as in doing that, comparing each gospel with another gospel, that's when I began to take note of the very apparent contradictions that are therein, and in doing that, that's pretty much what sealed the deal for me. I knew that this could not be the word of any God if it was ridden with such controversial contradictions. And
hey, it's riddled too, by the way.
Yeah, it's a riddle as well. Once you dig into the history of it, it definitely becomes a riddle. But yeah, so it was pretty much in doing that led me to pretty much being deconverting myself from the faith by studying the Bible.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So can you tell us what were some of the key factors or some of the key experiences that led you to question or reject that previous religious belief?
Well, it was kind of examining, what Jesus said here, there, or somewhere else, along the way through the gospel timeline. What were his last words? What happened on the morning, Sunday morning resurrection? Who showed up at the grave site? What were all the details? And I was pretty much, going through the details of those things. And as the old axiom says, the devil is in the details. So in searching out those details and, not being so ambiguous about it, just by going by the harmony of the gospels that Christian apologists will try to, assemble together to make it all one, sensible story. I kind of dug into it myself, and that's when I realized that this was, none of this is actual history. None of this actually happened. It's just a big old hoodwink that I was sold under since childhood. And once I figured that out, it didn't take long probably within a couple of weeks for me to become a full-blown atheist.
Wow. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you were done.
I'm
That's
done. Go ahead.
yeah, that's pretty amazing. Quite the story. So so you would say that you were, I heard you say you were all for Jesus, or you were all sold out to Jesus. So you weren't so you weren't like this surface believer that just maybe went to church and had this routine of going to sing a few songs, and you were baptized, and But it sounds like you were like really sold out to Jesus. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I would go on the corner on the streets and preach the gospel from the corner of the streets was my pulpit, So
You're
I would
kidding.
reach out. Yeah, I would reach out to homeless people, buy them something to eat, and tell them about Jesus. And yeah, that was my thing. I love
Whoa,
telling people about Jesus.
whoa. So you don't hate Jesus?
I
Well,
didn't hate
well,
Jesus
let me
initially.
rephrase it. You were not a
Now,
hater.
no, not at all.
You were in love with him, or the idea of Jesus.
I was in love with Jesus so much that I used to write poems to him, very descriptive and thought out poetry, expressing my love for this king that uh, died for me, because I really saw myself as a humble messed up human being that needed the atonement of Christ and the redemption that he offered in his blood to make me at one with God and to seal my future in heavenly paradise with him forevermore, because that was basically essentially my only hope that I had in this life, was leaving this one and going to the next one where everything would be pies and cream. But once I realized that all those things were fictional, my life actually became a lot better. My mind became a
Wow.
lot more, efficient, and I always had an efficient, I guess, effective mind, but it just, I started my own business, and, and just started to, live life, and without all those fears, that I had that were holding me back for so many years,
Wow.
fear of sinning in the presence of God, fear of hell, those were things that I took very seriously, and I expected other people to take them as seriously as I did.
That's so powerful. So, what would you say to those people who often say to people like yourself, they'll say, "Well, you were never really saved. You never really knew the Lord, because if you really were saved, and if you really loved God and had a personal relationship with Jesus, you would have left." And they'll bring up the scripture that says, um, "They went away from us because they were never of us. For had they been of us, they would have remained." So, what do you say to those people that say, "Well, you weren't really saved in the first place"?
Well, I think to speak first to those passages of scripture that you mentioned, I think those are put there in advance, with the knowledge that people at some point are going to default from this faith. And so those are put in there, kind of like the same way, if you read through all of your, when you download an app and it has all that fine print in there and it says da 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 da, it's kind of like that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of preemptive that it know the people who were putting this whole Christianity thing together. They were obviously very adept to the many myths and ancient religions and ancient mystery school religions that had existed up until that time, and knew about people going from one to another, and they wanted people to stay within, so they wanted to basically offer little threats to keep them there, which is fear mongering. So and then the Christian, to speak to the Christian who's going to say that, that's just basically, it's the same thing as when a Christian will say, "Oh, why did you leave the faith? You must have been hurt in the church, or
Yeah,
God
that's
must not
another
have
one.
answered. God must have not have answered your prayers." Now, see, I take insult to that because that would make me become a person who is really lacks any depth, very superficial person. If I am looking at the creator of the universe, and in a way that if he doesn't answer my prayer, I'm going to leave him. I'd be a fool if I really believed all this, because which I did. Um, and only I can know that. Of course, nobody else can know what I truly believed or didn't believe. But I think there would be many people that could attest that I was a true believer. Um, but there's, like I said, there's a lot that could be said to those people, and as far as these are the quintessential excuses that are pretty much posited to try to disclaim your experience, and to try to um, you know basically put you in a corner and say, this is what you're about. This is how this happened, and they have no knowledge whatsoever. It's all just, it's very presumptuous. To be honest.
Yeah,
um so yeah.
absolutely. I'm trying to put some of the comments on the screen, but all of a sudden, we talked about the devil earlier, jokingly. The devil, I think, is now in my computer again because I cannot move my mouse. So I can't do anything. So I want to put some of your comments on the screen, but unfortunately, guys, my computer won't let me do a damn thing. It's like doing nothing. I see
Well,
the
I'm getting
mouse over in the corner, but I can't move it. Okay, well, we won't worry about that. Maybe it'll come back soon, and I'll try to read some of the comments as I see them come up. All right, guys. So let me ask you, how did your friends and and family or community react when they learned about your transition away from religion?
Well, to put it concisely, I lost everything. I lost everything. I lost my dwelling place of the former 5 years, up until 2015. I lost relationship with my mother.
Hmm.
Um, I lost at one time. I lost my wife. I lost
Wow.
my child for about 6 months. So yeah, a lot of things were going downhill fast, and
Wow.
it can really make you wonder during that time that you're what we would call a wilderness experience. It will make you think, man, am I doing the wrong thing? Am I on the wrong path here? Is this the punishments from God? But I
Mm,
had already kind of advanced mentally from that believer
mm,
ism into understanding that this is just the natural repercussions of telling the truth.
mm.
People don't like the truth, so people are more definitely more have a greater affinity for a how would I say a comfortable lie rather than an
Yeah.
uncomfortable truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
As Julius Caesar said a long time ago, the people love to be lied to, so we lie to them.
Woo! That's powerful. That is so powerful. Man, I wish I could put these comments up. I need some of y'all people out there that are religious to start rebuking the devil out of my computer, please. Thank you. Um, that this is a powerful story, and I'm really enjoying this. So we're gonna go a little deeper here. Um, what, and you kind of already answered this. So if you want to just leave your previous answer as your answer, that's fine. But I'm going to ask this question a slightly different way. But what specific aspects or teachings of your former religious beliefs did you find the most problematic? or the most difficult to accept? And can you give some examples?
Are you talking about after my deconversion?
Um, yeah, well, I would say yeah, or that led you into your deconversion, whatever, however you want to answer that. Just what
Well, after
aspects,
my
if it was doing religion, what aspects or teachings of your former beliefs that you find to be most problematic or difficult to accept?
Well, while I was a Christian, the biggest issues that I had were the myriad of doctrines that were abreast in the religion context of Christianity. I mean,
Mm.
there's such a disparity of differing, um, beliefs that each different sect, which they're kind of lost you there. Are you there?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't know what just happened. Uh, my screen is completely black.
I can see you.
You can see me?
I can see you. I see your I see your face there.
You see my face?
I see it all.
My screen is black. I need to update my MacBook. I'm going to tell you that the thing is probably doing the best it can with the best it's got. Just
Well,
to be honest.
I got this old Beats HP and it definitely needs some work.
Yeah, I got a black screen and the circle is just spinning there. I'm
Well,
just gonna
I
wait a few minutes. We're gonna keep talking because I guess let me go to YouTube or Facebook and see if everybody else can see.
they're saying that they see you there.
They see me?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was at 1 minute ago. We see you, Ben Urban.
Okay. Wow.
Oh,
Okay. Well, maybe it'll come back up. I'll just pull up my Facebook right now on my phone so that way I can kind of see what's going see myself. But
I see you there.
okay.
I see you there too.
Okay, interesting. Y'all wanna y'all wanna
Let me
send me
see.
like a million stars so I can buy me a new MacBook. But so let's go on here. What was the next question I wanted to ask you?
Oh well, you was asking me about the what was it that bothered me about my religion, and I was kind of answering that in a little two part So I was saying initially that the disparity of the different doctrines
Mhm.
was something that had bothered me ever since I was probably 13, 14 years old. I mean, because one other part I kind of left out was that I from the ages of about 12 to 18,
Mhm.
there were intervals in my life where I attended Christian rehabilitation programs from one coast to the other, from Maine to California, and programs like Teen Challenge, Set Free,
Oh, okay.
Victory Outreach,
I remember Team Challenge. I remember that one.
yeah, all those places. So I was, that's where I was like, well, these people are saying this. It was mainly about, the gifts of the Spirit, speaking in tongues, healing, and those things. Another big one was, OSAS, once saved, always saved, and losing your
Okay.
salvation. That was a big issue. And so then after that, you just went down again.
Can you see me?
Okay.
Hear me?
I see you now, but it seems like your camera was going down like towards your lap, and then it goes to loading or something. Did you move your
Okay.
thing there or something? Your
Yeah, I was
screen?
trying to. That time I shut it and open it up to see if my screen would come back on.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
when you do that, that's when the screen goes black and it starts loading.
yeah, see, mine is black right now. I can't see anything. I just hate that.
Hmm.
Um, let me do something, okay? You will not leave the studio. So I'm going to let you continue to talk, and I'm going to restart my computer. Um, what I'm going to ask you, so that you can have some context as far as what to talk about while I'm reloading here or restarting. Um, I want you to share anything that you want to share about your experience, maybe any specific examples of some of the problematic teachings. We're not going to go into the historicity of Jesus just yet, but some of the problematic teachings or things that were difficult to accept. Can you just give us a few more examples of those? And even, I'll tell you a good thing to talk about, some of the things you also experienced in those, I call them camps, like Teen Challenge, because I've heard a lot of horror stories about that. I don't know the validity, but I've heard a lot of horror stories.
Well, I've definitely had some experiences in there that I remember.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to restart this. I'm going to be watching you on my phone while I'm restarting my computer. Okay.
Okay.
Experiences in there that I remember.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to restart this. I'm going to be watching you on my.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, when I was out in California, I was a teenager, and I was in Set Free up there in Bakersfield, I believe it was. And these guys would have us go to the food stamp office. This is back when food stamps were paper money. And they would have everybody that was in the program that lived in the men's home, would have to go to the food stamp office and get, valid food stamps. And then we would have to turn in all of our food stamps to the program. And what they would do is they would, go and buy very cheap beans and rice and supply us pretty much for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we didn't really see any really, anything, no big chicken dinners or anything like that, but it was usually rice and beans. And so they would also take donations and stuff. So, they was getting a good sum of money from all of the participants that were there in the program. So there was no reason for there to be any kind of a food shortage. But it seemed to me that what they were doing was taking the food stamps and buying food for their own families. And then on top of that, to add insult to injury, on every Wednesday morning throughout the afternoon till about 5 or 6 in the evening, they would force us to fast. And so you couldn't eat anything. Fortunately, there was an orange trees that grew in the backyard, and I used to pick some oranges and take them to the other guys and, share them so we weren't starving, because not only were we doing Bible studies, but we also had to do a car wash every day in the hot sun and make money for the program. Yeah, all that was going on. Obviously a lot of abuse is, meshed in with all that. And always being condescending to the people there in the program and everything. Anyway, to go to the next question that was posed about how I felt after post deconversion about the issues, with the Bible and Christianity. I would have to say that one of the issues that's I found in the Old and New Testament was regarding the positive connotation towards slavery. Slavery is very accepted in the Bible, and the God of the Bible seems to have no issue with that. And I often ask people in these days, when I'm speaking to them, I say, do you find a problem personally with slavery? Most people do have a personal issue with slavery, but they don't seem to connect that with, well, how are you, a mere mortal human being, having a problem with slavery when the God that you believe in has no issue with it at all? Shouldn't you be on your Lord's side and say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with slavery? That's how, if you believe that God created everything and he's the one who inspired the word of God, and you believe that, and you think that this is something that's authentically from God, then you should think that slavery's great.
Okay. Now, see, when you say things like that, that really, gosh, that really triggers a reaction. I'm telling you, it should. It should in some way.
Well, I mean, they're thinking that they know better than God, and I just can't understand that.
Yeah, and see, that's one of the things, like the comment that's on the screen. It says critical thinking debunks the spirit of God all the time, but religious people can't admit it without undermining their own convictions. I think that's a very, very important point to point out here. Okay.
Indeed.
All right, so let's
you might have missed the part where I was telling the crowd here how in Set Free in Bakersfield, California, they would get us to all chip in to get food stamps.
Oh no, I heard it. I was on my phone.
Oh, you heard that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was pretty darn radical.
And they would force us to fast.
Wow. Yeah. Give your food stamps to Jesus. Okay. Because Jesus needs them. Okay. All right. Just like he told them about that donkey, he hasn't tell the man I have need of it. That's all you need to tell him. Don't tell him anything else. When he asks you why are you taking my donkey, tell him the master has need of it. So the food stamps, Jesus has need of them. Let's move on.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why we call them pulpit pimps.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's dig into this thing even deeper. Okay. In your opinion, Jason, in your opinion, what role does historical evidence play in shaping our understanding of religious figures such as Jesus?
What role does
historical evidence
have
play in shaping our understanding of religious figures such as Jesus?
Well, I think what people have to realize here is that whenever you're looking towards historical resources, you have to understand first that you are, unbeknownst to you or not, you are looking through the periscope of the Roman Catholic Church. They are the ones who are allowing you to see what they want you to see.
Interesting.
And you have to, and there's a lot of factors that go in here, that we have to understand and kind of differentiate from today, from back 1500 years ago. One of the main things that we have to realize is that in the Roman Empire, which is spanning Africa, Germany, France, England, and all these, regions of the world, the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago, only 11% of the Roman Empire in its totality were literate. So this means that very, very, very few people could read, and very few people could write, right? So the ability back in those days to be able to deceive people with the written word was far greater than it is today. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yes. So this is one of the reasons that the Catholic Church wanted to keep the Bible in the Latin language or in the German language, and they didn't want it to be in the common English language of the people, you see. And that was why they fought so ardently against guys like what was his name? Wycliffe. Who was the other guy? There's a couple of them. I can't remember their names. But anyway, those guys who were back in the 16th century around that time were translating the scriptures from German and from Latin into English. So that was the issue, because they knew once the layperson was able to get their hands on this and be able to, you're going to be able to raise red flags to your thinking apparatus, which is going to tell you something's wrong here. There's a problem here. Whereas if you're just going to the mass and listening to the bishop tell you what it says, then okay. Hey, you can't. There's nothing that could be done about that. So,
okay.
So literacy plays a great role here. So go on to your next part of your question.
So let's just talk about now how you approach the historicity of Jesus in light of your beliefs or what information you've discovered. What is your approach to the historicity of Jesus?
Well, the first thing I'd want to deal with is the 4 canonized gospel accounts: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I want to begin to understand who, first of all, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are. When I begin to try to unearth who the hell Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are, I find out that they're nobodies.
Right.
I find out that these are anonymous writings that have no actual authors. There's no internal evidence or witness within those gospel scripts anywhere in there. Not one jot or tittle that tells you, hey, this is Mark, John, Luke, or Matthew writing this. These are all names that were pinned on by the Roman Catholic Church around the 2nd century or so to these gospel accounts. My next question is, I don't know if many people even ask this question, but where the hell did they find these gospels? Where did these gospels come from? Who was the first recipient of the Gospel of Mark? What was his name? And what was the logistics of that entire, passing on, this text to this person, and then he took it. Where's all that information at? Because I've definitely perused Catholic encyclopedias and different historical books that are supposed to be, on the history itself of Christianity, and I can't find those things there at all. Have you ever seen that? Did you ever see?
The question you asked is a great question that I think I've asked, and I think many that have deconstructed from the faith probably have asked those same questions. And the unfortunate part is, and I'm not interviewing myself, so I'm here to ask you questions, but for me, the unfortunate part is there are no answers to that question,
See, here's a statement I'd like to address right here real quick from Osiris Reborn.
Oh, I'm going to get to that. Let's not go there yet.
Don't go into that
comment. Yeah.
Because I really want to deal with the consensus among all scholars.
I'm going to get to that. I promise.
Yeah.
I want to keep you on track with where you are right now, though.
Okay. And now that I got off track mentally,
Osiris
Reborn, where are we?
So since you've gotten off track, let's go to Osiris.
Oh no, I know where I was. We was talking about what is the system? What system did I use to be able to determine whether something is, in the case of the historicity of Jesus, is there historical evidence? Is there viable historical evidence to point us to an actual figure and person of Jesus Christ? And to answer that question very easily, no, none, nowhere. It exists nowhere. And I mean, you have to dig into the details to be able to, to come to that conclusion. If you just leave it up to the consensus among all scholars is saying such and such, you've already crippled yourself mentally, because you're letting them do the work for you. And, you have to understand the factors of why these so-called scholars say the things that they say. There's a lot of biases there. There's a lot of people that are over them that control, how they're going to fare in the success of their being professors and scholars and all that. So there's a lot of things going on there.
I just heard a conversation probably last week on that very issue. there was actually there's two different gentlemen that were professors in a university, and basically one of the guys got called into the office, so to speak, and basically he was dismissed from the school. If well, he would be dismissed from the school if he taught that there was no historical Jesus, because his job was basically to teach the curriculum that they have approved. So there is some truth to that. Now, now we're not here today. We can do this. Jason can do this on his own time, and trust me, he does do this. Okay, we're not here today to debate that those two opinions either. But one of the things I do want to say is, and I'm sure Osiris knows this as well, probably, but he did say among all scholars, but it's definitely not among all scholars, and that may have just been a generalization on Osiris's part.
Definitely, it's
But,
definitely not
but
among them.
there are several scholars that do not hold to Jesus being a historical character, but I agree that there are many that do hold to that view, and I've heard those, and some of them are atheists as well.
Sure.
And Osiris is an atheist. Let's keep that in mind. So he or she, I'm not even sure who that is. They have no reason to defend Jesus. So let's keep that in mind.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's see. There was another comment I wanted to look at here. Doo-doo-doo. Yes. So and yeah, there are Jesus mythicists, right? And Osiris also says, and we're gonna move on after this. It's the same for Moses. Correct. I would agree with that. People say the same for Moses in some cases, that some say he was, some say he wasn't. But and
Here's
it's
my
not
thing on that.
Yeah, go
Here's
ahead.
my thing on here's my thing on that real quick, just to interject. When you say that, these guys could have been real figures, then you have to answer the question as to why then is it that the authors of these personalities are taking from so many other cultures and writings and using those things as an amalgamation to create these characters. For Moses, you have Sargon, who was the person who had a life very similar to Moses, was the same birth narrative and all that stuff goes for Sargon, as goes for Krishna, as goes for Jesus.
Yes.
So there's no reason that if you have a real figure that you have to borrow from other figures to create this figure, because that person, as a personality, he would have his own story to be told, and he wouldn't need to build his story from other stories.
Yeah, yeah. I can definitely understand and respect that perspective, that understanding. Most definitely. I kind of view, and we're going to move on because I want to try to keep this no longer than an hour and a half. We're almost at an hour. But I'm kind of the persuasion that I really don't care, whether Jesus or any of these characters were real people or not. The way that I really don't have much use for the Bible anymore. I don't read it. I do not. Just being honest with you, not as my companion book. I may reference it for a reason, but when I look at those stories, for me right now, I look at the Bible just as I look at any other book. Okay, it's
I
a
think it's
book.
best. I think we could best utilize this
Yeah.
thing here. Believing in people who are not real people. I think it really illustrates
Yeah.
the
Let me hold on,
insanity.
let me finish that thought, and we'll come right back to that because I think you're going another direction. But I want to hear that. You're absolutely right. I agree with you on that. But it's not my interview, so I'm not interviewing myself. So we want to hear from Jason. But I do want to say that um, for me, and I think for a lot of the people out there, and I think it's a much safer avenue, is to just look at it as what it is. It's a book with black and white, black, white, and red, okay? Because the words of Jesus. And, it's just They're characters. If you want to look at them as archetypes of some sort, fine. You know, if you want to, in an allegorical way or whatever, want to say, oh, this sounds like something I would do, so this could represent me. Fine. But now, Jason, as you were getting ready to say, you're talking about seeing these as real people. I think that's a great place to insert that. Go ahead.
Well, when you see these guys as real people, what it does is it illustrates the insanity of humanity. Okay, that we are so easily duped, that we are gullible, that we are sheep, ready for the slaughter. Propaganda, we eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, if these people would have came together with a any kind of a story that had some kind of coherency to it, that Mickey Mouse was our savior, we would have people out there today worshiping and praising Mickey Mouse and arguing with me that Mickey Mouse is a real character, and I'm telling them that he's not. So it illustrates how easily beguiled and how powerful deception is. I think, you know, sometimes people will say, well, you know, what's the greatest thing in the world? And I think the greatest thing in the world, the greatest power in the world, in my estimation, is deception, because it's in everything. It's everywhere. Every corner you turn is deception. But truth is a rarity. Truth is something that you don't easily stumble upon. Truth is not something that you just bump into and rub shoulders with every day. You are vastly surrounded by deception in every sphere of everything that's human.
Very good, very good. So, and I see a comment we're going to get to. I promise. 3PDI, 3Pi die. I hope I'm saying that right. But anyway, we're going to get to your comment. I promise, on YouTube. So, some let's get to this. So there's some scholars that argue for the historical existence of Jesus based on like various pieces of evidence. Now, not to give examples of these, but you know that there are various pieces of evidence that scholars feel like, you know, prove the existence of Jesus, even atheist scholars. But what are your thoughts on these arguments, and how do you reconcile these arguments with your skepticism regarding the historicity of Jesus?
Well, I'll give you an example. There was a book that Bart Ehrman wrote. I believe it was "Did Jesus Really Exist?" I own the book. I got it somewhere. I don't know where it's at the moment, but I read the whole book, and I was very feverishly flicking through the pages, trying to find any tenable argument for the historicity of Jesus that the esteemed Dr. Bart Ehrman could give me, and I found none. It was a terrible book. And a lot of times I've even noticed that Bart Ehrman will go back on other things that he said. Like there was a famous quote by him that went around the internet for some years, saying that in the first century there wasn't anything. Nobody mentioned Jesus at all in the entirety of the first century. Now, recently, he's gone on to say, oh, there's gospels from almost 30 AD, talking about the gospel Q, which means quell,
right.
And all that. It's a hypothesized gospel. They don't even have it, But go ahead with your question.
No, I'm listening. Very.
Oh, so, like for instance, okay. So something that I did was that I didn't want to go off of what people were saying. Okay. I didn't want to go off of what he said, she said. I want to go to the source myself. I want to go into these ancient manuscripts and I want to dig up and read in there. And I want to be able to, examine the context of how these things are being stated. Okay. So for instance, the three major historical extra biblical histories that will be offered by Christian apologists to establish the historicity of Jesus will be Suetonius's 12 Caesars, Josephus, his works, specifically Antiquities of the Jews, and Tacitus's Annals of History. Okay, well, I own all three of those books. And Suetonius never mentions Jesus. He mentions Christus, one of the two, because Tacitus mentions one and Suetonius mentions the other. They never mention the name Jesus, which is a very paramount point. Josephus, if you read that in its totality, if you have any kind of good reading level and you can comprehend what you're reading, you should be able to notice right away that the Testium Flavinium is a complete and outright interpolation, because it's like out of joint from the rest of the reading. If you take it out of there and you connect those two back together, where that piece, that TF will be in there, and it flows perfectly. But when you put the TF back in there, it's like a speed bump in the road.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because a lot of Christians, Josephus is definitely their go-to for most. And I've heard I've heard many scholars kind of debunk that based upon what you're saying, and a lot of scholars seem to agree that this was added. They seem to say it was forged and was not authentic even of Josephus. Okay.
If you check the index of Josephus, you know how many Jesuses in there you'll find?
Tell us.
14 in all.
So 14. Different Jesus, that are obviously different.
Yes, obviously. Jesus of Gamala, Jesus Ben Damnius, all these different there was a couple of high priests that had the name Jesus as well. And there's even in the Apocrypha, the hidden books that they took out of the original King James Version in 1611, there was the what they would call the Catholic Apocrypha books. I think it's Sirach and all those books in there, the Maccabees. You go and read in there, and you'll read about a priest named Jesus. And he has a lot of the same characteristic. He was a savior to his people, kind of like along the same vein as you see the Jesus Christ figure. There's also a Jesus that was in might have been Jesus of Gamala. I'm not positive, but anyway, he was in Josephus, where he talks about the part in Matthew, I believe it's Matthew 24, the Olivet Discourse, where he says, "Woe to Jerusalem." And well, this guy Jesus was, for like a few years doing this daily, woe to Jerusalem, woe to Jerusalem. And then they finally killed him with a stone in the head, from a catapult, and killed him because they were tired of his lamenting Jerusalem. And
wow.
There's all these stories. There's also, if you read the life of Josephus, so there's a story in there where Josephus runs across 3 crucified men, and they were his friends. 2 were dead, but 1 was alive. And he goes and asks Titus, the general, Vespasian's son, to take down the 3rd body. And so they take down the body and they give it to Josephus. Now, if you go to the gospel accounts, you'll find a guy in there named Joseph of Arimathea. Okay. Now, Joseph of Arimathea, you got to understand that Josephus's real name, before he changed his name to Flavius, which was in honor of Vespasian, the Roman emperor, his name was Joseph ben Matthias. Okay, and Matthias actually, where we get the name Matthew, actually means best disciple. So you've got kind of Josephus kind of interjecting himself, doing kind of like a what do they call that when the like in the movie Spider-Man, Stan Lee is there as just a regular person, bystander on the street.
A cameo.
Doing a cameo.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting, though, here that I have to also let you know is that very funny how Tacitus, Suetonius, and Josephus, you know what they all had in common?
What is that?
They were all historians that were employed under the Flavian dynasty. All 3 of them were. And all three of them, well, actually, I have to say Josephus didn't totally say this, but Cassius Dio agreed with Tacitus and Suetonius that one day Vespasian was going into Alexandria, Egypt, and there was a lame man and a blind man that were there, and they had a dream that Vespasian was coming and that he would heal them if they could just meet with him. And so Vespasian shows up, and the guy said, "Hey, these guys, there's a lame guy over here, a blind guy. They think that you can heal them. What do you think? You wanna do it or what?" And he's like, "Well, I could do it, but then if it fails, it's gonna make me look bad." They were like, "Well, I think you should be able to pull it off." So he prays in the name of Serapis, and he takes some spit and he mixes it into the eye of the blind man. I don't know if you've heard that story before, but and he heals him.
Never heard that before. Nothing similar to that in the Bible at all.
Yeah. Josephus pretty much says that Vespasian is the fulfillment of the Old Testament scriptures, and that he is the long-awaited Messiah of Israel.
Wow, man, this is some very intriguing information, very fascinating and intriguing perspective. I appreciate you sharing this, man. We're gonna keep going, but this is so good, so good. And guys, what I want you to do is I want you to take this information, take notes, go back and watch the video again, take some of these references and do the work yourself. As Jason said in the first part of the video, he said, I decided I wasn't going to take other people's word for it, and I did the work myself. So I'm encouraging you guys to do the same thing. We're kind of touching things on the surface to kind of intrigue you, pique your interest, and to make you go do what those of you that are Christians, what your Bible tells you to do. Go study.
To show yourself
approved, okay, unto the God that you are is what I'm going to say. But yeah. So this is so intriguing. So there's some scholars, Jason, that argue that Jesus's impact on early Christianity itself supports the notion of his existence. How would you respond to that? And before you respond, let me kind of elaborate on the question. So some scholars argue that Jesus's impact on early Christianity supports the notion of his existence, and they even look at the fact that it still exists today. Okay, well, so how would you respond to all of that?
I would say this. First of all, let's define early Christianity. Let's define what exactly is early Christianity. Are you talking about the early Christianity of the Marcionites? Are you talking about the early Christianity?
His name here, hint.
Yeah, are you talking about the early Christianity of the Valentinians? Are you talking about the early Christianity of the what we would call the Messianists, or how about the Essenes? A very interesting group who are never mentioned in the Gospels out of all the Jewish people, the Essenes. They wanted to leave them out of the mix altogether. So, a lot of times you have to go hunting for the omissions, the things that are not being brought to the table, which once you go and look into them, they become very big obstacles to this preconceived notion that Jesus was an actual figure who initiated Christianity. If Jesus initiated Christianity and he was so powerful and impactful in his speech and in his works and in his deeds, then there would have been no question of what Christianity we're talking about. There would have been, the Christianity that Jesus was talking about. That's the Christianity we're talking about. But where is that Christianity? Because if Christians really want to be honest with the facts of the history, the Christianity that you put your faith and belief and trust in is Roman Catholic Christianity. Because I'll tell you this, the only people on the Christian bloc 2,000 years ago that were saying that Jesus was the Son of God or that he was God was the Roman Catholics. Nobody else was saying that. Nobody else. Now you have to understand.
No,
You have to understand.
no, never mind. Keep going.
You have to understand the literary devices of that are at work here. You've got mimesis, you've got vaticinium ex eventu, which is a very interesting one. It basically is where you are writing something at a particular date, and then you're saying that it's a fulfillment of a prophecy, but you're writing it in hindsight. It already happened. It would be like me writing today a prophecy for 9/11. I already know 9/11 transpired. You see? And that's kind of where
after you that read what you wrote did not know that you
they didn't know that I already knew. Yeah. See, that's why knowledge is power. Because once you know these things, you see, you can no longer be deceived. And for me, it's not only the person of Jesus. Think of the Savior. Jesus stands specifically as, the Savior of the world. All right. Well, we still have, even as atheists, we still have this silly notion that we have a Savior to look forward to. Your Savior might be Joe Biden. Your Savior might be Donald Trump. Your Savior might be, one of the Bush, any politician, political figure, Hillary Clinton. You've got to get it out of your head that anybody is coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody has ever come to save humanity from this stuff that we're going through and that we're going to continue to go through in this hostile
damn obvious. No
world
one
that we
ever come.
No one has ever come. So if we can understand this at Jesus, that they have such power to deceive us and to get so many billions of people to so radically believe these things that they're pretty much conveying to your mind, then I mean, it should tell you something about how the rulers who rule the world see us. First of all, they see us as sheep. That's why Jesus calls you a sheep. And a sheep is a stupid animal. Okay. So when you're being likened to a stupid animal, you should take note of that and say, why would my creator, if you believe you have a creator, why would my creator assimilate me with a stupid animal? So, there's a lot to that, but, there's also, continuing along the lines of the historicity of Jesus. Let me see.
And Osiris Reborn. Yeah, Derek Lambert. He's talking about Myth Vision. Love his channel. He does have a lot of great guests, and I did see that interview with Dr. Richard C. Miller. I did see that. Yeah. He what I like about Derek, he brings all types of perspectives, whether he agrees with them or not. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. So and again, like I say, when we are dealing with scholars and these kinds of guys who are, they're obviously doing what they're doing for a reason, right? They've got a method to their madness. There's, you see the screen. I can see your screen on your image on the computer right now, right? Now there's things that are to the left of you and to the right of you that are out of view that I can't see, right? I can only see the image that you're presenting, and that's how a lot of these guys, come into our lives. They present an image that it's a tailor fit image that they just only want you to see a certain part of a thing. You know what I mean? They don't want to reveal the entire picture to you. And there's a lot of reasons for these things. I mean, I don't want to go into all that, but anyway, I'm just saying that
we can definitely do this again. We're kind of short on time, but I think it's a great idea to bring you back, and we can do this again. You guys, let me know in the comments. We're not done, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. Would you like to see Jason come back again? Just let me know that in the comments.
I would like to mention, though, some authors.
Actually, is that my next question? That's my question after my next question.
Okay.
So before
Go
you
ahead.
get to those, are you going to make like some resources recommendations?
No.
Oh,
No.
go ahead.
Well, I gave to you 3 authors that were under the Flavian dynasty: Suetonius, Tacitus, and Josephus. But I wanted to give you some other authors, the omitted authors, the
Okay.
authors that they're not readily going to tell you about, that were living in the first century, that were intrigued with the events that were transpiring in not only Rome but also the Galilee region. Okay. And some of these authors even wrote about those regions, and wrote actually in the very time that this Jesus character would have existed. Okay, so here's some for you. Nicholas of Damascus never
Okay.
wrote a word about Jesus, but wrote in the first century. Justus of Tiberias, Philo, I own his works. Marcus Paterculus, Marcus Nonianus, Pamphlia of Epidaurus, Aufidius Bassus, Pliny the Elder, Clavius Rufus, Julia Agrippina, Petronius, Fabius Rusticus, Seneca the Elder, all of these guys, and
Wow.
there was one female there, or actually 2, who wrote during that time and had zero, zilch, nothing, not a word, not only to say about Christ, Jesus Christ, but about Christians as well. And
Yeah.
most of those writings
Fascinating.
took place right up into the the time of Nero, about 62, 64 of the first century.
Absolutely fascinating. So we got about 15 minutes left. If you haven't already kind of exhausted, well, I'm sure you haven't exhausted all of the things that led you to
No,
this
not at
doubt,
all.
but could you walk us through some other key reasons? And it doesn't necessarily have to be any written material. It could just be a feeling. It doesn't matter. But could you walk us through some other key reasons that led you to doubt the historical existence of Jesus?
Well, sure. There's also the
Get a little closer to your mic.
there's also the very odd similarities that Jesus shares with people like Adonis, Attis, Dionysus, Inanna, Hercules, Osiris, Romulus, Zalmoxis, uh, even what's his name, Socrates. So
Can you give us at least one day? I think we just need to go line by line and maybe take one of those authors and talk about it. One of those not authors, excuse me, one of those characters and kind of talk about it. But can you at least give us maybe one or two of your best examples that come to mind?
well, I would because I've read Euripides' Dionysus Bacchus play, which recites as a play in his writings, which was first performed in 405 BCE in Greek after his death by his son. This is Euripides I'm speaking about, who wrote about Dionysus. Read Dionysus, he's the son of a god. He was twice born. He was hated by the government and loved by the people. Of course, he was a god of wine, so that would be a good indication of why. So he was tried before in a court setting. He was executed, and then he resurrected. So you've got that, and then you've got let's take.
Are you talking about Dionysus?
Dionysus? Yep.
So I just want to add something to that. Not only was he resurrected, but he was seen by an individual as well after his resurrection. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to throw that in there.
And then
eyewitness, an actual eyewitness. Okay.
Yes, and then I would go to the second one. I would go to is Romulus, who was known as the founder of Rome. Him and Remus which is kind of touches on the story of Cain and Abel that you'll find in the Bible.
I'm sorry. Thank you. It's Romulus. When I was just talking about, it's Romulus. Thank you. It wasn't Dionysus.
Yes, he was had an eyewitness who I believe his name was Protoculus or
Yes, that
Protoculus.
is him. That is him.
Well,
Yes.
I've actually got Ovid here. Ovid was a Roman, Ovid's Metamorphosis. Let me see something right here. Let me read this to you real quick. This is about Romulus's. It's called the apotheosis of Romulus. The apotheosis just means to become a god. So it says, reward time. This is out of Ovid. Reward time, Father. Rome's strong and well-founded and doesn't depend on one man. You promised me and your grandson, take him now off earth and put him in heaven. You once told me in God's counsel, and I remember, I noted your pious words carefully. There would be one you'd raise to heaven's blue. Fulfill your words. The Almighty nods, darkens the air with blinding clouds and scares the earth with thunder and lightning signs. Mars recognizes fulfill the promise of his son's removal. He leaps on the spear fearlessly into chariot, horses straining bloody the chariot beam, and with whip touch he's off through the air, landing on top of shady Palatine. Grabs Romulus, announcing laws to people untyrannically. His mortal body dispatched through thin air like lead from sling, melting into the sky. Takes on handsome appearance, worthier, heavenly Davenports robed as Quirinius. Wife Hercule mourns her lost husband. Juno orders Iris down rainbow path with message. O greatest glory of Latin and Sabine people, and most deserving to have been such a hero's wife. Then it goes down to here. It says in the bottom paragraph, goes immediately with Iris to Romulus's hill. There, stars falling from the sky, lands on earth, lightening Hercules' hair. She rises with star into sky. The founder of the Roman city receives her with familiar embrace. Changes former name with body, calls her Hora, goddess now with Quirinius. That's what Ovid says about it. It's a little bit poetic.
Yeah, very poetic. So sum that up. We got probably about 10 minutes. So kind of sum that up in a few seconds for me.
Well, let me give you the more, if I can, let me give you the more kind of to the point.
Okay. And give us a summary of it if you can, because we're kind of low on the time we have remaining.
Okay, this is from Livy, The Early History of Rome. He says, such is the story of Rome's military and political achievements during the reign of Romulus. All of them chime well enough with the belief in his divine birth and the divinity ascribed to him after his death. One need but recall the vigor he displayed in recovering his ancestral throne, his wisdom in founding Rome and bringing her to strength by the arts of both war and peace. It was to him and no one else that she owed the power which enabled her to enjoy untroubled tranquility for the next 40 years. Great though Romulus was, he was better loved by the commons than by the Senate, and best of all by the army. He maintained in peace as well as in war a personal armed guard of 300 men, whom he called the Celeres, which means the swift. Such then were the deeds of Romulus, and they will never grow old. One day, while he was reviewing his troops on Campus Martius near the marsh of Capra, a storm burst with violent thunder. A cloud enveloped him so thick that it hid him from the eyes of everyone present, and from that moment he was never seen again upon the earth. The troops, who had been alarmed by the sudden storm, soon recovered when it passed over and the sun came out again. Then they saw that the throne was empty and ready, though they were to believe the senators who had been standing at the king's side. See, it always takes belief. Believed the senators who had been standing at the king's side and now declared that he had been carried up on high by a whirlwind. They nonetheless felt like children bereft of a father, and for a long time stood in sorrowful silence. Then a few voices began to proclaim Romulus's divinity. The cry was taken up, and at last every man present hailed him as a god and son of a god, and prayed to him to be forever gracious and to protect his children. However, even on this great occasion, there were, I believe, a few dissenters who secretly maintained that the king had been torn to pieces by the senators. So, see, this is just perfect. I mean, this is how the rulers, once they want to, said there that, Romulus wasn't very, you didn't have much favor with the senators, but he was cool with the common people. They liked him. So they were like, well, let's give this story of how he just happened to disappear and a cloud came and enveloped him and took him into heaven while they really killed his ass.
Wow. Very fascinating. Very fascinating. And like I said, I think one day we may just tackle those comparisons. So just a few more. We literally have maybe about 7 minutes left. So what sources or resources have you found helpful in forming your current understanding of religious history, particularly regarding Jesus and early Christianity?
Well, let's see. I would probably refer to anything that was materialized from the radical Dutch criticism that was from the 19th century. That would be guys like Edwin Johnson, Herman Dettering, any guys of that school of Dutch radical Dutch criticism. Those guys were on point, and they were the pioneers pretty much. Although there are actually other mythicists that actually go back to the first few centuries. That
Are there any specific books or scholars or research that you would recommend to our viewers?
Well, I'm a pretty big fan of Dr. Robert Price. I think he does a lot of good work.
Yeah, someone talked about him earlier on here, I think.
Yeah, Dr. Robert Price. Let me see who else. But for me, I just want to, really expound on the fact that for me, I find going to the writers that actually predate and precede the time of Christ and were writing along that very time 2,000 years ago, those are my most precious resources. Plato, Philo, as I said, Tacitus, Suetonius, the 12 Caesars, great stuff. It really expands your horizon on understanding that the New Testament and the biblical stories are not taking place in a vacuum.
Okay. So this next question, I'm going to ask you now. This may be a hopeful and wishful thinking thing for me because I know you're very compassionate and sometimes compulsive in your responses to people. Not compassionate, excuse me. I just noticed I said not compassionate at all, but passionate indeed. Compassionate. Yeah. I said it again. Maybe that's wishful thinking that you would be a little more compassionate. But y'all, this is my friend. I love this guy. Oh man, it's a great comment here from Truth Seeker 1959 on YouTube. Says this is truly blessing me. Okay. But the question: how do you navigate conversations or debates with individuals who firmly believe in the historical existence of Jesus?
Well, and a short I play according to the level. If somebody is going to be honest, they're going to be truthful and transparent and not try to, I could tell when you're bullshitting me, and I don't have much tolerance for the bullshit. And a lot of people they love to lie for Jesus. And I don't have much patience with liars because I'm a very honest person. And it was my honesty that brought me out of Christianity. It was me first. I always tell people that, before you can be honest with others, you need to be honest with yourself. Very good. Because if you lie to yourself, you're definitely going to lie to me.
Very good.
And
What
it seems
strategies do you now this may be the wishful thinking part here. What strategies do you employ to foster constructive dialogue while respecting differing viewpoints?
well, I've deconverted 15 people
I've
in
never
5
seen
years.
you respect a differing viewpoint very often. Now, I'm just gonna be honest with you, okay? You know I love you, and you're my friend. But
I just want to say, I've successfully deconverted 15 people from Christianity from America to Africa. Just
yeah,
by,
so in other
going
words, you're
over.
saying your strategies work. I definitely get that. Definitely get
Well,
that.
well, I mean, they don't work with all people, but you have to understand that it's kind of like we can use the illustration of 1 Corinthians 12-14, where it talks about the body and how the different parts there, the head can't say to the hand, I don't need you, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like the same thing here. Different people are different parts, and they have different ways of coming about things and going about things, I should say. And, different styles of presentation. Mine's is a little bit more raw. Mine's is a little bit more fact based. I'm not really concerned with your
Yours is not a little anything. Yours is very raw.
My biggest thing is I'm not concerned with my opinions, and I'm not concerned with anybody else's opinions. I'm only concerned with the facts of the matter.
Absolutely. Yeah, you kind of explained that to me. I think the other day when we talked on the phone, and I really understood you a lot better because you talk to me about when you're passionate about something, you become very compulsive, and you just want you're trying to help people. Like you said, I love this kind of feedback here. Said it's great interview, even though I disagree, and I love that. And like I said recently, hey, everybody has a right to disagree. Everyone has.
Everyone has a right to disagree.
Yep.
But not everyone has the right to their own facts.
Right. Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. But at any rate, I love when someone can, because you are wherever you are in your journey, each person. And I think the same person actually stated, they talked about, and we've got 4 minutes, guys, so I'm not going to really answer a lot of questions. I'm just going to read the comments. Did Romulus exist or not? I think yes, but he was made into a legend. A lot of people think that. Some people think that about Jesus as well. He was made into a legend. He says, I'm on the camp that Jesus existed historically. This is why scholars don't debate this issue. I would disagree with that. Some scholars do debate that issue. I understand this brother. I think he is amazing, but I do think Jesus did exist historically. And I love that, Ricky. I love that, the fact that you still applaud my guest today and you respect him, even though you disagree. That's awesome. Who is this? Okay, Malik. Yeah, Malik. He says,
words are power.
Words are power. Oh, words. Okay, words are power. If you let them affect you, he has a way with words. He has a way with words. He has a way with words with tone. Okay, gotcha. We can't talk facts when it comes to the Bible. I think I'm understanding what you're saying there.
I think he's being a little bit sarcastic there, but yeah, that's good.
Okay, I get it. Yeah, exactly. You're right. I'm sorry. My mind is.
Let me hit you with one more thing before we have to cut off. I just want to get this out
really
there.
Quick, because I'm trying to stick to my time. We got like 2 minutes.
Okay, I think I can knock this off in 2 minutes. Okay,
so go ahead, because I got another question.
Jesus said, they said Jesus said, to the disciples, he was going to make them fishers of men. And when you fish for something, you need a bait. Okay. Now the rulers of the world understand very much so that humans have an innate desire for love. We want to be loved. From the time we come out of the womb, we want love. But what do they know in addition to that? They know that in this world, very oftentimes love is going to be stifled in our life, even from our parents, children, very close relationships. Love is a fleeting thing. It comes and goes.
Absolutely.
So if we can present to the people this guy who loves them unconditionally, we've got a hook, line, sinker here. Now, what I've noticed is that in the impoverished areas around America is where you'll see bus stops where it'll say, Jesus loves you. you know, and have a number for a church, you know, call that number. It seems to me that it's in those kinds of neighborhoods where they know that they can take advantage of poor people who don't have anything but a Jesus. You know, it's easier to sell them that idea and get them enveloped and get them wrapped into the church. And, you know, and I often say the reason that churches inundate these kinds of neighborhoods with churches is the same reason that spiders build webs by light bulbs to catch flies. And but here's the other thing to that. You don't see any impact. You don't see any practical, actual impact of these churches that inundate these neighborhoods, which should prove to you that they are impotent. There's no power there.
Still in power, still the same problems. Yes, yes. That is one of my issues with religion and the religious culture overall. I'll say this, and we really got to go, but there's some parts I even miss about my Pentecostal background, and what I do miss was the excitement, and I'm honestly the entertainment. Can I just be honest with you? That's one of the things I missed, the entertainment. But I'm able to acknowledge now that it was entertainment. But all of that, you know, caught up in the vibe, and there's nothing wrong with that part. I would say the vibration, the energy of the atmosphere, of whatever. But here's the issue that I have is that no transformative growth or change is happening, and we got to be honest about that. Not just in those impoverished neighborhoods, but right in a lot of you that may be watching, right in your local church. If you would just look at the same people, look at yourself that are knocking over the chairs and falling in the floor. Is there any real change happening? Is anybody's life changing when you get up out of the floor and leave the door? Okay, leave out of the door. All right, let's go. So, last question. We're going to shift just a little on your last question. Have you encountered any unexpected challenges or insights during your journey away from religion? You kind of answered that, but you may have a different answer.
You mean opposition like that would try to deter me potentially from my atheism back to religion? Is that what you mean? Or
however you interpret the question? But that I didn't have that in mind, but that'll work. But just any unexpected challenges or insights.
Well, I mean, just to be kind of transparent, when in the first couple of weeks that I was actually defecting from Christianity, there was some emotional upheaval that I encountered. I mean, I remember one time I was just, you know, don't beat me up a little too much, but I started crying one day, man. You know, it was almost.
I'm just playing.
I know it almost kind of. It was like the impact. It just hit me.
Same thing. I did the same thing.
You know, that there was no loving God, that there was no Jesus, that there was no heaven, that all that was just a pipe dream. And when I really internally realized that, I mean, it kind of crushed me a little bit on the inside for quite a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there anything you wish you had known or understood earlier in the process?
Nah. I mean, I was kind of on the fast track to atheism once those doors popped open for me, and I'm very grateful now that I know that what I know. I'm glad. So I'm a million times thankful to mind and to the mind set, where I understood that these things weren't true.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we wrap it up here, is there any advice you'd like to share with those who are questioning or considering a transition away from their religious beliefs, especially in terms of exploring the historicity?
Sure. I got a good one for you. Most Christians would know that the Jehovah's Witnesses are liars, right? So if you wanted to determine whether the tenets and doctrines and the teachings of the Jehovah's Witness religion was the truth, Would you go to known Jehovah Witnesses and look into their literature to have them tell you that their religion is or their cult is a lie? They're not going to tell you openly and readily that they're a lie. They're trying to give you the impression that they're the truth. Well, it's the same thing stands true for Christianity. If you want to really understand that Christianity is not true, you cannot continue to heed the words of Christian apologists because they're never going to tell you the truth.
Great advice.
So you have to go outside. You have to go outside of that box to be able to discover the truth. It's kind of like a job interview. They're going to check your credentials. They're not going to just take it for you on your own word, that you can be trusted with $1 million. They're going to go check your credentials and say, well, what does Harry say about you? What does Sally say about you? What does Sam say about you? Well, that's what you need to do with Christianity. You need to go see what the people, and basically just, look at other authors that are outside the scope of Christianity, in ancient works, and read their stuff. And
all right. Great advice, brother. So thank you, Jason, for sharing your unique perspective and information and your personal journey with us today. It has been quite a fascinating and enlightening conversation, if I would say so myself. We've seen it in the comments, so they agree with us as well. And I want to thank you, all of our viewers, for tuning in to this episode of The Unbelieving Bishop. Remember, the journey of self-discovery. Okay, that's what this thing is all about. The journey of self-discovery and questioning beliefs is a deeply personal one. Okay, but let's continue to foster if we can. And I'm trying to do better with this myself. I'll be honest with you. I'm trying to do better, but the best that we can. But I will give back the same energy you give me. You know that. If you give me a funky energy, I'll give you a fuck you energy. That's just how I roll. Okay, but let's do our best to because it is a very personal journey, and it's very, very deeply personal. But let's do our best to foster a respectful discussion and embrace our shared humanity. So until next time, I want you to stay curious and keep questioning. Would you like to say goodbye?
Goodbye. And remember, Christians, when you're praying for me, I'm thinking for you.
I love it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Remember to like and subscribe and share this video. Share it with all of your friends. Share it on Facebook. Share it on YouTube. Thank you, Life After Religion. Thank you so much. I think that's my brother, Jackie Robinson, I believe. Thank you so much.
Jackie Robinson. I know him.
I think so. I'm not sure. but thank you so much. And don't forget to share this video. And if you're on YouTube and if you hadn't hit the like button, if you've only watched, go back and hit the like button. That's very important. Subscribe, share. Have a great day. Love you all. Jason, I'll talk to you soon, brother. Appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.